All right, what's up, everyone? This is an emergency podcast, an emergency episode of Sports Card Madness because some major news dropped. LZ, what is the news? What happened? What made us jump on this
No,
pod?
PSA, who we all love, we talk about PSA a lot, just bought SGC, another
Woo!
grading company, and a reputable grading company. This wasn't just like a podunk startup grading company. This is one of the larger ones that
Yeah,
many people respect.
yeah. SGC is great. They're great for vintage cards. They don't do on-card autographs anymore, but great company, great slabs, very affordable prices, great turnaround times, and good customer service too, from what I hear, and from me personally using them. So, wow. Okay.
Yeah, big
Um,
big news. I don't think anybody was expecting it
no kidding.
other than we had Nat Turner on recently. He should have dropped that bomb on our show, but
No kidding. I'm sure it was in the works then, but we know how that
yeah, it
goes.
was. Yep.
All right, man. I got a few things to say about this.
Okay.
You know, I've been to business school, so I have an interesting perspective on this, but I don't think you have to kind of understand what's going on here. So, um, PSA already has 80+% of the grading market. I believe SGC was like 7 to 8%.
Yeah.
So now
hmm
PSA collectively with SGC is looking at 90% of a share of a business category. And, I love Nat. He was on our pod. You should check out that episode. And I use PSA all the time. I hate to say it, but when you own 90% of a category, that is a monopoly. Um, for better or worse. And LZ, you and I were texting this morning, and I was like, at what point, at what threshold does the government care? Because this actually is definitely a monopoly with antitrust ramifications, but I don't think it won't even make the back page of the Wall Street Journal because it's like the weird collectors territory. And it makes me wonder, like, what is their threshold to care? Because in a monopoly, in a standard monopoly, you have poor customer satisfaction, you
hmm
have less choice, you have less quality, and you have higher prices. Those are all horrible things. It could be soda, it could be diamond rings, it could be anything. And those are horrible things. And I'm a little bit worried about what this is going to do to the hobby. I imagine Beckett's kind of like the Lone Ranger. It's crazy. I mean, there's CGC does different stuff
Yeah.
too.
CGC.
Um,
Right.
but wow, I don't know, man. Sorry. Rant over. What do you think, man?
Yeah, the Monopoly thing, first thing that came to my mind. I just think I think about all the companies that have been stopped. Like I have a very good friend who works for Staples Corporate, and Amazon came along and started swallowing up market share for Staples. So Staples went and they tried to buy some of their competitors. I think it was like Office Depot and Office Max. And the government stepped in and said, you can't do that. That's a monopoly. And it's like, so this happens all the time. To your point around this being on the Wall Street Journal, Nick, to the question you're asking, I don't think they'll step in. They're only going to step in if it is prudent for them to step in.
Yeah,
And does the government really care about the trading card market? I don't
no.
I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do. Now if the one person who could maybe make them care is if Michael Rubin decided to to talk to his influencers in the government space if he wants to dive into this. So I was even thinking about that piece of it too, Nick. I mean, I guess moving off of the monopoly piece, it is in my opinion it is a monopoly.
Yeah,
Um,
like,
so
I mean, the government obviously cares about consumers to a certain extent,
mhm,
but only in so much that their image isn't tarnished.
right.
Like, I this isn't going to be jumping on the headlines tonight. It is for us
No.
in the hobby, but it just isn't. It's just not important to like
Mm-mm.
99.9% of Americans. Therefore, it's not important to our government.
Right.
Sorry. But yeah, I mean, Michael Rubin could change it. It's all game, right? Like I'm not going to get into politics, but it's interesting. I mean, I guess like I'm kind of wondering, is this like a Ben and Jerry's Eaties where you never even notice you're eating a Cherry Garcia and nothing's
Mm.
changed for 20 years? Or is this going to be like bye bye SGC slabs? Are they? You were texting me a great question about what happens on the cross now. Like if you
Yeah,
have a six
yeah.
in an SGC, is that like a six in the PSA because they're the same
That's the
company?
theory. That's a theory. Everybody jump on eBay right now. Scoop up the SGC cards. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it's true or not, but right, like you have an SGC like vintage, let's call it 7 card, and you know that if you were to cross that over to a PSA, you're probably going to get a 5. Do things change now? If you send in that SGC 7, is it going to come back a PSA 7? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is an opportunity for everybody. I doubt that it will be, but maybe it is. It's probably something to keep track of.
I just yeah, I mean I can't get it. I can't get it out of my head that this one company has an outlet in an auction house. They have the means of production for that outlet in a grading facility and
Hmm.
multiple grading companies now. So they're like creating the product. They have the outlet for the product. It's like, ah, man, it's just perfect vertical integration. It's exactly what I would do
Oh,
if I was Nat Turner and could get away with it. It's wild. I mean, I
after
guess that
speaking with him, Nick, after speaking with him, this doesn't shock either of us when we
yeah,
interviewed him. It doesn't. This is perfect. It's
yeah.
perfect for him.
I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess there are all right, some good things because I've been very negative so far. I think there could be some kind of cool unified set registry,
Hmm.
Now all of a sudden you bring the pop of SGC cards in, and that could be kind of cool. Now you're getting like a more clearer picture of cards that have been slabbed at two companies because let's just face it, I mean, PSA set registry is like the standard, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that's kind of interesting. Um, I mean, I get
I don't think you're being negative. Like I know you just
yeah,
apologized for being negative. Like I don't think we're really being negative. We're just being, I don't know, we're analyzing the situation. I think there will definitely be some benefits in the hobby by this happening. But it's just something that we need to, because you still have Beckett and you still have CGC. You have
tag, yeah, some others.
yeah, you have Tag. There's some other up and comers coming too. So um that's something to think about. I do think one of the benefits of this is the question I mentioned it for a second is what is Michael Rubin going to do?
Mm,
And I think, I mean, he's already been innovating like crazy lately, but could this push him to innovate in a different category? Could this push him to either purchase a very reputable old school company like Beckett? It's been around for a while, good brand, good name, or does it push him in a different direction and look at some of these up and comers that are maybe starting to use a little bit of AI? And what does that do? So I think it's in that respect, kind of this PSA fanatics. It could create some competition, kind of a
yeah.
buckle up and wait and see here.
Right. I think, well, first of all, Michael Rubin's going to do whatever he wants to do. I think the big question for me is market caps. I think Beckett's probably a $50 million market cap, something like that, in terms of
Hmm.
revenue. I wonder what collectors is. I wonder if that's even something you can figure out. I guess you probably could by estimating cards and grading fees and things like that. But I'm trying to figure out who the biggest gorilla in the room is. It's not Beckett. It's probably Michael
No.
Rubin. He's
Yeah.
certainly worth more than the market cap of both these companies and multiples of that.
Hmm.
So it would be fascinating if, I wonder if he wants to get into this business. I wonder how profitable it is. Is PSA's profit margin 90% or is it 10%? If it's 90,
Yeah,
he,
he's
he puts
jumping in.
together a SWOT
Hmm.
analysis and he's like, we're going in, baby. Like, we're going to redo
Yeah.
Beckett and have a price guide. And man, I don't know. I think it's like anything could happen.
Hmm.
It's kind of wild. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Nick and I talk a lot about how we definitely use PSA a lot. Um, but I do have some SGC and they're nice looking, right? So the other thing I was texting you this morning about was, are they going to get rid of the black border? Because on some cards it looks really nice with that black border. Um,
They're easy to
so
crack too.
yeah,
Can I
they
get my
are.
PSA cards in SGC cases just so I can crack
Oh,
them?
yes. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people like them, and a lot of people actually like them for vintage. I think they're a bit more popular when it comes to vintage cards. And I don't know if that maybe is because they're a little bit easier graders. So if you have a vintage card that's beat up, you send it in there. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like people may have lost that option when it comes to vintage cards, especially if PSA forces them to get stricter.
Yeah, I don't like the I can just see where the price ramifications are going. I mean, basically it's thank you, sir. May I have another? Like with PSA,
Hmm.
just pay whatever they tell us to pay. You can game it with like the collectors club and stuff. SGC is quite affordable. They've had very good deals around shows and holiday specials and stuff. I hope that they keep that. I imagine they will
Hmm.
for image purposes. Although after a couple of years, they might not. So that will be interesting.
Yeah,
Very
when you mentioned the low prices, Nick, it does, and maybe eventually we will find this out, but why did they sell? Right? Did they sell
mm,
because um maybe they had some financial troubles? I don't know, and I'm just totally guessing, right? But companies usually sell for a reason, right? Um, so I don't know what it is, but it would be great if we can somehow investigate and find out just the backstory on why it happened.
Yeah, and what's the end game for collectors, right? So they've got an auction house. I'm just thinking with my business hat on, right? They've
Hmm.
got an auction house. They've
Hmm.
got grading companies. They've got a few other tertiary things. And are they trying to be an acquisition target for eBay or, an even bigger company like, it could be a Fanatics thing too.
Could be.
I wonder what they're
Hmm.
doing here. When I see this much activity and this much acquisition in a particular space, usually there's another hammer to drop. You just might
Hmm.
not realize it. It might take a couple years. It just feels like a space ripe for fun. So I mean, good on all of them. Good for Ken Golden for getting acquired. Good on Nat for acquiring the company. And it's cool to see all these things happen. I just want to make sure that we as collectors are not getting boned. I mean, I guess there's
Yeah.
nothing I can do about it, right? Other than all of us saying,
Mhm.
oh, we're not going to grade anymore. But
But we will.
yeah, we will. Of course we will.
Of
They
course
smack
we
us
will.
across the head and we'll be like, sure, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
still grade.
of
It's all
course.
good.
Of course we will.
But I
And I
think
don't
there's
think
just, yeah, go ahead.
I don't think you'll see changes in pricing in the short term, but I think if we come back to this pod maybe a year from now, um yeah, that's when I think you'll see some of those changes. Usually a company's not going to acquire somebody and all of a sudden up the pricing right away. So,
Something's going to
um
happen with Beckett in the next 12 months.
yep.
Something big, something in this space. And
Hmm.
it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. This is
And
the
that
first
is
shoe to drop.
That's one of the we did a bold predictions episode. That's one of the predictions that we had was something around Beckett. I mean, it wasn't exactly this. It was more it was some projections around what we thought Beckett would do this coming year or in years out. So yeah, this is definitely going to impact them. Something's going to
Yeah.
happen. Everybody keep an eye on Beckett.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Cool
Yep.
space, cool things happening. But like I said, monopolies they're only good for the owners of the monopoly. They are not good for anyone
Yeah.
else.
Hmm.
So, I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting journey.
Yeah, it will be good. It will be interesting to see if many of the other players in this space actually decide to team up and combine too. Um,
Yeah,
that could
yeah.
be that could be
Maybe you get
something
like an
that.
upper deck Beckett thing, or who
Mhm.
knows, man. Like, anything could happen. Anything could
And
happen.
this is where just speaking to innovators and tech companies in this space, this is where there's an opportunity now. There is an opportunity. Now, obviously, you got to go up against Goliath, but there is an opportunity because if they make some serious changes and it disappoints the customer base, that is an opportunity to
Yeah,
go after
absolutely.
that customer base that is disappointed. How can you leapfrog? Um, if you've ever had the opportunity to travel to other countries, especially for instance, let's use India as the example. Uh, India actually is very innovative when it comes to technology, because they realized that they couldn't compete necessarily with the financial markets that the United States had and with the dollar and even just printing dollar bills. Like that infrastructure is very expensive. So they decided to leapfrog the United States infrastructure. And India was like one of the first countries to adopt electronic payments. Like the fact that we use Apple Pay and we're all used to Google and Apple Pay right now, like that's because they leapfrogged because they knew that they couldn't meet that infrastructure, so they innovated and they leapfrogged it, and now we're all using electronic payments. So to tech companies out there, take a look at what just happened and how can you leapfrog what's going on in the market right now.
Right. Think about the monopoly or duopoly in the 80s. You have Coke and Pepsi, right? You have a lot of disappointed customers that don't even know what they're missing. And what ends up happening, most monopolies do crumble. It's like Rome, that eventually something happens. Now you get Snapple. People want some juice, and then they have tea. And then it's too much sugar. So they have water. And
Yeah,
then
let's
people
bottle
have,
water.
yeah, then we have coconut water. And now,
Yep.
I mean, you go to 7-Eleven, there's probably 200 SKUs of something liquid in there for
Mm-hmm.
you. So
Yep.
I do think that this sparks something that we don't see yet, or some innovation by Tag, or maybe like Tag says, hey, let's go after autographs, or something like that. That'd be wild. That would be very disruptive. I do feel like that's coming. That's like a spidey sense of mine. I think there's another grading company. I mean, it's JSA. Maybe JSA starts slabbing, who knows? It's crazy.
Maybe.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. May you live in
We'll
interesting
yeah.
times.
Grab your popcorn. Nick, it is definitely madness what's going
Yes.
on today.
Absolute madness, my friend.
Yeah, absolute madness. Yep.
Cool. All
Okay.
right. We haven't done an emergency pod in a while, so but this was definitely worthy.
It was. All
Cool.
right.
All
Bye,
right. Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.